Okay. That's our discussion for today, folks. Thank you for joining us. Is it better to build or buy a guitar? Let's be serious for 5 seconds. Done. We're back to not being serious anymore. So this video is going to be talking about my guitar builds. And some people don't like when I use the word build because I didn't harvest the tree and source the materials, and I assembled it. So I always joke that it's like an IKEA kit, even though it's not that simple. IKEA kits are pretty easy. So what this video is going to be is my opinions and thoughts and recommendations and pros and cons, all that kind of stuff after building 6, 4 of which I have now. 2 of them have passed along to a better place. I don't know if I'll talk about those ones at all, but I'm going to talk about the 4 that you saw in the thumbnail. Hopefully I use the thumbnail that I'm thinking of using. I've got a red Telecaster, a blue Telecaster, a white Telecaster. By chance, that's the American flag colors. I didn't pick that on purpose. And a black Telecaster, Stratocaster, sorry. I just made some notes here, so I'm just going to talk about if you're thinking of doing a Partscaster, because it's it's an interesting thing. It's something that I recommend for sure, and it's something that pretty much anybody can do. It's a good way to get into building guitars. How else would you get into it? It's a good way to get into, I think it'll help you in the future if you wanted to do repairs. The first thing I ever did was a pickup swap and soldering out or putting in new pickups on a guitar that I had, a cheap guitar. So this video is going to be broken up into a few different parts. I'll talk about building the 4 Partscasters. I'm going to call them Fender Partscasters because they're all Fender parts. I can actually say that. I'll recap each one, so we'll go through each guitar. I'll plug them in. I'll get some clean tones and some dirty tones. I've done full videos on them, so if you want to see more detailed tones, but I'm going to play it through, you see this here? It's Princeton reverb. I'll play it through that, get some tones. Really, really nice amp, especially the reverb. That's why they put the word reverb in the amp name. So yeah, I'll recap each one. I'll give my tips, like things that I've noticed over time doing doing the last 4. I've done 4 since November of 2019. So I've done a few. And then I'll do like a pros and cons summary, and I've made some notes here. It's hard to remember, right? It's always good to keep notes, and it helps you get better with each one. So let's go into them. So we'll start off with talking about each one. Put my notes away for a minute because this is going to be all improv. It's a night at the improv. Let's start in the order that I built them, and we'll just talk about them. This is a white Telecaster, Olympic white, and I'll describe the inspiration for each one and pretty much what it is modeling and what I've created here. So you'd consider this like a 50s style Telecaster. It's got a vintage style 50s neck. It's a made in Mexico neck, very glossy, 7 1/4 inch radius, vintage style tuners, Olympic white body that I had to wait I think it was 6 or 8 months for that. In the original building video, I talk about that. They were just out of stock for so long, and it's from Fender, so I don't know why that took so long. I can't remember now. The pickups are twisted telly pickups. One, two, three, four. Yeah, it's got a 4-way obsidian wire. I always forget which is in which. 4-way obsidian wire switch, which lets you get thicker tones by combining the bridge and the neck pickup. It does series and it does parallel, so we'll hear that. Rather than a pull pot, they do that S1 switching on a normal, not a normal, but Fender does that on some of the guitars. So that's that guitar. I need some water. These pretzels are making me thirsty. Okay, that's number one. 50s. So think of like 50s Vintera, something like that. Number two. This is, man, these are nice in this lighting. If I had to say which guitar I was modeling this after, I'd say like a Fender Elite, because it's got the Generation 4 noiseless pickups. This is a roasted maple neck. Which one is this? This is a 9.5 inch radius. It's got the standard Fender tuners. The neck is made in Mexico. The body is from a Player series. It's called Tide Pool Blue. So it's actually routed out in here. You could do humbuckers if you wanted. Anything else to mention? Is this a 4-way? Nope, this is a 3-way. Just doing a 3-way on this one. Get your mind out of the gutter. Stop it. Twisted telly, no, sorry, noiseless. Yeah, I'm right. I'm gonna be bouncing back and forth. Noiseless pickups, so really, really nice. A little bit heavier, it might be around 8 pounds, I can't remember. So think of a Fender Elite. Which has been since replaced by the Fender Ultra series. That is number two. Number three, and this one, the inspiration for this is a Tele Pro, Candy Apple Red, and also inspired by that pedal show. Is it Dan? I think he has a Candy Apple Red model. So, again, it's a roasted maple neck. This one's a 12-inch radius, though. It's made in Mexico. Standard Fender tuners. Candy Apple Red body from Fender. They sell their parts on Fender.com. I'm just going to go off topic for a second here. And you can see all the parts listed, but the key thing is, and a lot of people miss this, if you go to Fender.com, by default the site is set to international on the bottom, so you have to scroll down to the very bottom of the page, pick your location. I just pick the US, because then you can see everything. You can see the mod shop, you can see all the parts. Different countries have different listings, so you might not see all the parts that I'm talking about. What is in this one? This one, oh, this is V-Mod pickups, and that's, yeah, and it's again a 4-way obsidian wire. If I didn't mention it was an obsidian wire kit for the blue telly as well. It's obsidian wire. I'm obsessed with obsidian wire. It's all obsidian wire kits. I'll put links to that. I do have affiliate links to that, so if you do buy obsidian wire kits, it helps me pay for more stuff like drugs. These are drugs. This is what I'm talking about when I'm saying drugs. Yeah, so this is pretty much like a pro telly, except for the neck profile maybe. But I'd say of all the tellies I have, the V-Mod pickups, not my favorite. And you know, you try them out and you learn. But it's got the vintage style tuner, vintage style bridge and saddles, sorry. Candy Apple Red, really, really nice. It changes color depending on the lighting, like natural lighting versus sunlight. Well, sunlight is natural lighting versus fake lighting like in here. So it might, I don't know how that's showing up on my camera right now, but so yeah, that's like a pro telly. So again, vintage style telly, Fender Elite, and then a pro. So, and then one more. Don't fall, that'd be embarrassing. Wouldn't want a guitar to fall in a video, which has happened before. Okay, and my latest one. This one is an artist-inspired guitar, inspired after David Gilmour from Pink Floyd. So this is a Stratocaster, black Stratocaster. It's had one little change recently. If you watched the original video, I've put locking tuners on it that I used to have on a different telly that I had, and I swapped them. And actually, somebody recommended that. They're like, hey, locking tuners, when you got a trem. I'm like, yeah, that can't hurt, right? Okay, again, it's a roasted maple neck, locking tuners. It's all Fender locking tuners, I'll mention that. It's not Grover or some other brand. 12-inch radius, so it's pretty flat. This is a... I forget the official name that they give these bodies, but this is an official Fender Strat body. They're all made in Mexico, so it's all made in Mexico stuff. These are 59, is it custom shop 59 pickups? I'm going off memory here. If that's wrong, I'll pop it up on the screen. If it's right, then I'm right. Another Obsidian wire kit. This is a 7-way. They call it the Gilmour switch, wiring switch. So it has like a pull pot. You can do some different combinations. I've got the trem here. Nothing else really to mention. Pretty light. I think it's like 7 pounds. It's one of my favorite. It's currently the only Strat I have. And it's my keeper for now. I'm saying for now. Hopefully forever. I don't know. You never know, right? You just never know. So there we go. That's the 4 guitars. So there you go. You got to see them. Again, a quick recap. Vintage style 50s telly, modern style elite noiseless, a pro telly, and then a Gilmour Strat. And if I screwed up any of those specs and stuff, go back and watch the original videos, because it's all detailed in those. I'll put them in the cards. They'll pop up somewhere here, and I'll put them in the description. Very long videos, like an hour long for each one, but I think you know, it's a long process, and I didn't want to skip anything, so they're documented fully. If you want to see how long it takes to make one of those, try just building a guitar, and imagine all the time you're spending recording that and then editing that after. It's pretty time consuming. But I'm not complaining. I'm just saying. I'm just making it. I'm just letting you know. So I'll give you my tips. I've made some notes here for tips over the four guitars that I've built, assembled. I IKEA'd or Lego'd, whatever you want to. I've mentioned this before. Generally people are pretty nice about it. There's always 1 or 2 comments. People are like, you're not building a guitar. I'm like, okay. Do you build a house? Do you build Lego? Whatever. You can tell it bugs me, right? Because I won't let it go. So I made 3 quick tips here. Take your time. And I kind of just mentioned that. This is not something you can rush. If you're not able to sit down and take your time and focus on a project, this is probably not the kind of thing you want to do. You want to have somebody else probably do this for you. If you're just a player and you just want to have a guitar and play, I struggled with that at the beginning, because I've done 6. And the first 2 that I did, I don't have anymore, but the first one I really rushed, and I was like, wasn't happy with that. I've ended up selling all the parts, and that guitar's gone. So yeah, you got to take your time. It does take time to get all the parts. My favorite part is actually planning, making the list of deciding what you want to pick, and then finding the stuff. So that leads into my second point. Look for deals. Don't rush and just grab the first thing you see. Sometimes you can ask for a deal and get a discount on something. People have asked me where I buy my stuff. I buy it all over the place. I take a look on Amazon, I look on eBay. eBay has a lot of partner stores, which are just usually other sites that are selling through it. So if you can find out where those sites are and contact but contact them directly. It's worth asking. Hey, like 5-10%, do you mind? It's always worth asking. There's never the worst they can say is no, right? And then you can say, okay, goodbye, I'll go look somewhere else. Or you can just pay for it full. So my guitars are a mix of full price stuff and deals. I tend to get deals on the necks and the bodies because they're worth waiting for that. Because the neck is usually the most expensive part. I said take your time, and then I have a third point here. Don't rush. So, which means also take your time. I recommend, like people have asked me, they're like, you should use this brand, blah, 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 blah. They didn't actually say that because I wouldn't understand what they were saying. But I stuck with Fender Parts simply because I can call it a Fender guitar. In my mind, in my crazy mind, they're real Fender guitars, except for the Obsidian wire kit wiring, which I think is actually probably better than the wiring that's in a standard Fender or a real Fender guitar. And I had no worries about parts not fitting. You can get some aftermarket pick guards and different things. You just don't know if they're going to fit unless they have the specs and list the measurements. I'm not an expert with numbers and measurements. I don't know how everything works in terms of size and all these different guitars. So I wanted to eliminate that and make it simple. I probably paid a bit more because it's all Fender stuff. And it's all a mix of different companies, different countries where the stuff is made. Some of the stuff is made in America, some of it's made in China, I've seen made in Korea. So it's a big mix. Most of the stuff is made in the US that I've run into, but you get to pick and choose. So there you go, that's my tips. Don't rush, look for deals, basically, right? Some people ask me, how do you get started doing this? How do you actually, one way would be maybe if you're not comfortable doing this kind of stuff, if you're able to, on used market, look for something like a Squier guitar, something really cheap that you want to take, and then take it apart. It's 4 bolt-on screws. You can take the pickguard off really easy. If you're not comfortable with stringing guitar, you might want to learn that first because you're going to have to string it and restring it, possibly, unless you know how to get a pickguard off without. I didn't know that at first. My first project guitar, I figured out, I used to take the strings off and pull the strings out and put in new strings. Every time I had to open the pickguard, I figured out a way to not do that. You can just loosen the strings and like shimmy it out. Shimmy's not the word I meant. Jimmy it. Okay, there we go. I talked enough about my little tips. Now we're gonna get into pros and cons and about the whole process and everything. Everything to do with this, my pros and cons that I've noticed over the past few years. First thing I'll mention before getting into the pros and cons. So at the end of the day, or at the beginning of the day in my case, do I love any of these guitars more than, say, something like, I'll just pull this up because I had this prepared, something like an official Pro Tele Deluxe with an American neck. Do I love any of those guitars more than that guitar? And the answer is no. I'll be honest. If I come into this room, the first guitar I'll pick up is that one. And it always comes back to the neck. The necks are really nice on these ones. The American Pro has the rolled edges, and the setup is probably just a little bit better. Maybe the frets, something, I don't know what it is. It's one of those things, you hold it in your hand and it just feels better. So I go to that one. It's easier for me to play. It's easier for me to learn and practice. So that's just my opinion though. I'm not an expert on setups, so you can probably make one of these and set it up just as good as that. So that's just, just wanted to mention that first. So let's get into my pros. The first thing, I think I mentioned this before already, maybe in this video, this is my pro list. You get to pick and choose everything you want. And that's my favorite part of the whole thing. Looking online, it's like the scavenger thing, right? You're like hunting. You're like going out and trying to grab stuff and then bring it back. Not really like a hunter, but so yeah, you get to pick and choose, look for deals. I get a sense of accomplishment if I can find a deal on something. I'm like, yeah, sucker, I didn't pay full price on that, even though that's not a thing. The other major pro, I only have a couple here. The other major pro is when you're done building it, there's a huge sense of attachment and accomplishment to making one of these guitars. Like, I pick it up and I just feel like I know it inside and out, literally, because I do. You might not get that with other guitars unless you've pulled them apart and really done some work on them and stuff like that. So yeah, your blood and sweat, well, I actually have blood. Every time I string one of these guitars, I prick one of my fingers. So blood and sweat, and I sweat when I work on these because I sweat easily. I'm the kind of guy that sweats when I'm behind the TV unplugging wires. So that gives you too much information. So that's my pros. It's it's really fun to do and sense of accomplishment after, and you can make nice guitars. So the cons, here's my cons. Be prepared to make mistakes, and I've done some. I'll describe the mistakes I can think of off the bat. For the first one here, the white telly, I don't know if this is going to show up well. I think it will. Can that hole, that little hole, you see that? That's a drill hole. I drilled through the control cavity in the front. I was trying to put in a ground screw, not realizing you only have like millimeters of wood between the bottom of the cavity and the back of the body. Drilled right through, and that killed me. So I bought, I looked it up. I bought some car paint and sealant and stuff like that. You know, it's a scar that's going to be there forever. But I made it, so it's my problem. Oh, the blue telly. Is it this one? Yes. Can't see it so well here, but if you go back and watch the original video, putting on the string tree. Oh, I didn't even put that on properly. There we go. Putting on the string tree, I slipped when I was using a drill, scratched the top of the headstock. It's not noticeable, but when I did it, it freaked me out. So I've learned from that. I know how to do that properly now, which I've improved on with the red one. The red one, what did I do on that one? Oh, this one I learned something. 22 frets. If you got a single pick, if you got a, if it's not a humbucker routing in here, you need to put the neck on after. So I learned that the hard way. I did everything, put the neck on first. Some people ask me why I put the neck on first. It's just a preference, it doesn't really matter. In this case, could have done that. I like to have the neck on and everything lined up before I put the pick guard on. So anyways, I had to take the neck off to get the electronics in there because they just wouldn't slide in. And the black Strat, what mistakes did I make on that? I really don't think I made any. I think it got to the point where after doing those 3, things went really smoothly. There's always issues, right? You'll run into, like I ran into one issue with the Strat, but that wasn't me. That was the screws that came with the pickups. It's custom shop 59s. Is it 57 or 59? God, I should know this. The screws wouldn't fit in. Apparently, you just have to like really work at them. So I ended up using other screws, and it worked out in the end. But that killed like an extra hour trying to figure that out and finding screws to fit. So there you go. Yeah, be prepared to make mistakes. You're gonna learn a lot. That's why I say start off on something cheap and work your way up. The next con, and these are my personal opinion, right? Setting up a guitar is an acquired skill, and what I mean by setting up is making it play and sound good, so you're not buzzing out. Cutting the nut is not easy. It takes me a bit of practice. So just to give you an example, the red and the blue one, I just literally recut the nut yesterday or 2 days ago. Not recut, sorry, I had to add more to it. Had to cut deeper in the grooves because the first 2 frets, they were playing out of tune. And that's all it was. So I figured that out. And that's usually like a fine tuning thing. The black one, I cut the nut fine the first time. And that's okay if you got time, and that's part of the not rushing, right? You don't want to rush. You got to be prepared to like do something and then maybe work on it a bit later if it didn't work out the first time. So the next 2 points are probably the biggest points I'm going to make in the cons, and this is very important to note. You generally won't save money building one of these versus the equivalent guitar, and I guess the equivalent of each of these guitars would be like a made in Mexico player guitar, because basically the bodies and the necks are made in Mexico. So yeah, you're going to spend more. Like, to give you an example, I've done all the pricings in the videos. Today, a player Telecaster in Canada runs like $979 plus tax, so you're looking over $1,000 with taxes in. I think in the States they're $699. I don't know what the tax is there, how that works. Each of these were different, but they were all roughly between $1,200 and $1,400, I think, Canadian. So a little bit more, but again, it's similar to if you bought a Player Series guitar, swapped out the pickups maybe, swapped out the neck. And people ask me why I don't just do that. And I just like building from the ground up. So that's my opinion. The next point is kind of related. So if you go to resell these, if you're building these thinking that you're going to resell them, don't expect to get the value back. You're not going to sell them for what you paid, basically. So it's similar to modding a cheap guitar. If you buy a Squier, say you buy a Squier Affinity and you put in custom shop pickups, you're not going to go and sell that guitar for the added value, the money that you pay for the custom shop pickups. You can't add that to the price and expect people to pay that. They'll laugh. They'll say like, pull out the pickups, I'll buy the pickups. I don't want the guitar. So keep that in mind, right? Yeah, if you're building it to sell it, you'll probably be at a loss. And just keep in mind that make these something you want to keep, unless you're okay with letting them go and losing money, if that's something you like to do. All right, there we go. That's my pros and cons. That's going to wrap it up. That's going to wrap up this video. It's going to wrap up this discussion. Hopefully that was helpful and useful. And hopefully you like the sounds of these. I really like them. They're all very different. If I had to describe each one and which one is my favorite, probably my favorite one is the blue telly. And talk about tones, right? I like telly tones over strat tones. So I'd probably pick, I'd say 1, blue, 2, white, 3 would be the black strat, and my least favorite would be the candy. And it's just the V-mod pickups. That's just me, and it could be the way I'm dialing in. So there you go. There we go. There's our need more coffee. There's the discussion. Here's the part where I start rambling on and not making sense. If you have any questions about these videos, go back and watch the originals because I'm not going to answer you right now. No, I'm just kidding. Leave a question. Leave a comment. Let me know if you have any questions. Where did I buy this stuff? What kind of drugs are you on? How old are you? Your favorite color, favorite food? Any of those questions? $10. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, that's going to do it. Thanks for checking out my channel. If you haven't already seen those original videos, queue them up. They're long. Put them in a playlist. Let them fly. And enjoy them. Hopefully this is a series that will help people in the future and in the past if you're time traveling. What's he even saying? I do have plans to possibly do another one, and if I do another one, I'd probably be a Jazzmaster, and that's something I'm just looking for the right color body, so it's hard to find them. Oh, another site I didn't mention that I get stuff on is the Stratosphere, because they basically take guitars, pull them apart, and sell the parts individually. Kind of like, I don't know, what you call that, for better deals. So, anyways, yeah, as always, play guitar and have fun, and go build a guitar, because you deserve it. I don't know, I'm running out of things to say. Oh, we're out of time? Animal's saying we're done here. Okay, that's good. Play guitar and have fun. See you in the next video. Take care. The floor. There's what I'm looking at. That's my director. I didn't even plan that. He wasn't set up there on purpose. That's my guy. That's Animal. You're an animal. You're in trouble.